Welcome back to AEW Change the World. I've just done booking the 11th episode of Tuesday Night Dynamite with just 3 episodes, including this one, until that huge Madison Square Garden Super Show. We've got some important matches and some key segments going on tonight's show. With that said, let's run it. So the episode begins again in the AEW office. We're trying to build more of these Being the Elite style double or nothing candid segments. This time, Dustin Rhodes is talking to Pac. Footage of Pac's defeat to Joey Ryan last week being shown on the screen. Pac is furious watching the defeat back and quickly gets into an argument with Dustin Rhodes, who questions the recent actions of Pac. The argument continues until Pac grabs something off Dustin's desk and throws it across the room. Pac then says that Chris Jericho was right about Dustin Rhodes and right about this company. Dustin gets out of his seat, he's fired up, and he tells Pac that he can't just throw his toys out the pram and get his own way in AEW. He will, however, get his rematch against Joey Ryan, not because of how he's acted, but because Joey Ryan requested that he could face Pac again and prove that last week wasn't a fluke. We then get the commentators introducing the show. They talk about the defeat of Pac to Joey Ryan last week. They put over Pac's fury at the loss, and the rematch between the two is scheduled to open the show. They also promote what is planned for the rest of the show: Tenille Dashwood against Santana Garrett, Hangman Page against Penta El0M, and Cody continuing his attempt to prove himself. He'll face Christopher Daniels later in the night. He wants Kenny Omega at the MSG show. Match number 1 sees Pac defeat Joey Ryan, getting his win back following a corkscrew shooting star press. I did put the note in, I'm sure, so I'm not sure why it's not there, but Sonny Kiss comes down during the match because after 4 or 5 minutes it seems like Pac could finish the match off, but instead he tries to teach Joey Ryan a lesson. Sonny Kiss comes out, he's had enough, but Pac is able to knock him off the mat. This almost causes Joey Ryan to get a roll-up victory over Pac, but Pac is able to regain control and win the match. A 78 and a 52, a 62 C-rated match, a very good opener to Tuesday Night Dynamite. We then get the segment after the match. Kiss tried to stop the beatdown of Joey Ryan, but Pac then turns his attention back to Kiss after the match. He rolls Kiss into the ring, laying boots into him before locking in the rings of Saturn. The referee from the match will attempt to release the hold, but to no success. Pac only lets go when Kiss stops struggling. Joey Ryan and Sonny Kiss are then laid both out in the ring, Pac standing over the pair of them, having seemingly redeemed himself from last week's defeat. Out of that, the commentators introduce the incident from last week that led to Chris Jericho getting sent home. They point out that Pac has showed sympathy with Jericho since that moment. Chris Jericho attacked Angelico before Dustin Rhodes took action. This was the latest issue involving the veteran star. Dustin felt he was left with no choice but to send Chris Jericho home. He later explained this, stating that he was unsure when Chris Jericho would return to the company. From his social media this week, a self-produced promo from Chris Jericho. He's talking about what happened last week. He reacts to being sent home. He says that it was the worst decision that Dustin Rhodes could have made. Jericho says that Mr. Khan only has himself to blame, however. He had the chance to remove the power from Cody, Brandy and the rest of the Elite, but he handed it to the only person worse than them, Cody's brother. Jericho says that he sold out MSG before, and he sold out every single building that AEW has booked for the next 6 months. He tells Dustin that he's going to have to beg him to come back, because if he doesn't, the fall of AEW will be on Dustin's head. A masterful job of improvising, although a stale, maybe we need to change his gimmick. His storyline continuing there, a 72B-, again a good segment for us. We then get another Being the Elite. It's not really Being the Elite because that is more comedy, but the Road to Double or Nothing videos, which are really good. Dustin Rhodes met with the Young Bucks and Kenny, who are all EVPs in AEW, albeit they've handed over their power to be competitors. Dustin is just looking for advice from 3 senior figures within the company who all agree that the best way to teach Chris Jericho a lesson would be in the ring. Rhodes struggles with this, understanding that as a competitor they'd see that, but given Jericho's behaviour, he can't just give in. Kenny reminds him that while as competitors they'd like to see Jericho in the company, they sold out All Out with him, and AEW isn't going to struggle whether Chris Jericho is here or not. We then get the second match of the night, continuing to build to the Women's Tag Team Championship match at the MSG show. Mercedes Martinez and Ivelisse Velez take another step towards that, defeating Kylie Ray and Erica Reed in 7 minutes too. Ivelisse Velez pinning Kylie Ray with a disdain. A 55 for Mercedes Martinez, a 49 for Ivelisse Velez, so they are 2 of the strongest performers on the women's side of the roster. Another defeat for Kylie Ray and Erica Reed, which should be mentioned in the post-match as Ivelisse Velez and Mercedes Martinez stands tall. It's clear that there is some tension between Erica Reed and Kylie Ray. Erica Reed beginning to feel that Kylie Ray's bad luck, her bad form, may be rubbing off on her close friend. We then get a quick recap of Brandy's announcement last week. Women's tag team titles are coming to AEW. This leads into a promo pre-recorded from SCU, who talk about the match with Cody that Christopher Daniels is about to have. They're sick of the Elite's drama between themselves. They don't care what happens. They don't care if the whole group implodes. They're just focused on MSG and AEW in 2020. All three of them planning on becoming champions in All Elite Wrestling. That will start with Daniels taking his place at the front of the line for a Men's World Championship match before Kaz and Sky become the next tag team champions. That match is a 64C rating, a 64 for Chris Daniels, a 57 for Cody. A decent match, 11 minutes and 48. Cody Rhodes is able to pick up a convincing victory over Christopher Daniels, perhaps proving himself as the potential challenger. He certainly feels so, as he requests a microphone from ringside after the match, calling out Kenny Omega to come to the ring and accept his challenge. He adds that he saw Dustin plotting with the rest of the EVPs, so before they find another obstacle put in his way, he wants Kenny's word that he's got the shot. Kenny comes down to the ring, removing the title from his waist and putting it over his shoulder before raising it in the air. Cody continues to put over his case, but becomes increasingly annoyed when Kenny doesn't really respond. Looking to teach him a lesson, Kenny says nothing as Cody's temper becomes angrier and angrier until he looks ready to flip. At this point, the Young Bucks come out, realising that something bad could happen like it did 2 weeks ago. They try to calm Cody down, but he tells them that as tag team wrestlers, they don't know a thing about being world champions. The Young Bucks are understandably offended by this, Matt Jackson particularly stepping forward. He says that Cody might think that he's proven himself enough to be the champion, but if he wants the shot at Madison Square Garden, he suggests he goes through Matt Jackson to do it. He challenges him to a match next week on Tuesday Night Dynamite. Cody seems more than happy to do that as the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega leave together. That is the end of the first hour of the show. Returning to the second hour of the show, the commentators welcome viewers back, putting over the previous hour of Tuesday Night Dynamite. They talk about the fact that Cody Rhodes has agreed to face Matt Jackson next week and promote the rest of the show, including tonight's main event, Hangman Page versus Pentagon Jr. We then go into the fourth match of the night, Tenille Dashwood defeating Santana Garrett in 12 minutes and 25 with a roaring elbow, a 42D rating. Tenille Dashwood with a 44 there, which is pretty good. Happy with that, and hopefully she can continue to get better as we build her up through the division. After the match, Alex Marvez joins Tenille Dashwood in the ring following a victory, asking her about her impressive start to her AEW career. Dashwood makes her intentions clear. She wants to be the next AEW Women's World Champion, and she calls out Britt Baker to discuss that. Baker comes down to the ring but tells Alex Marvez that the number one contender has already been decided and communicated to her, and it won't be Tenille Dashwood. Dashwood is furious about this, but Baker announces that at Madison Square Garden, she will defend the AEW Women's World Championship against Tessa Blanchard. Blanchard, who is undefeated, comes down to the ring, but before she can speak, Dashwood takes the microphone from Alex Marvez. She tells Blanchard that she wants to face her next week, saying that she'll prove beyond any doubt that she is better than Tessa Blanchard and she deserves to be the next challenger. Blanchard, never one to back down from a challenge, agrees. The two win face to face, having agreed upon a match next week on Tuesday Night Dynamite. A video package then plays showing footage of various members of the AEW roster, particular highlights of Angelico, Darby Allin, Matt Cross, MJF. The package ends with an announcement that is coming soon to Tuesday Night Dynamite, which will presumably involve those four guys. Hangman Page and Marty Scurll then cut a promo, a response to the Lucha Bros interview last week. Marty Scurll says that he proved them wrong last week. The Lucha Bros as single competitors aren't on the level of the Villain and Hangman's going to prove the same tonight against Pentagon. Hangman says that it's going to be great when they're standing tall again, but it'll be even better when at Madison Square Garden they take the titles from the Lucha Bros. We then get the fifth match of the night, another women's tag team match. Faye Jackson and ODB from the local area losing to Heidi Katrina and Sadie Gibbs in 7 minutes and 16 when Katrina pinned Faye Jackson following a spear. The best rating of the match going to Heidi Katrina, as I expected. Faye sustaining a Rolando fracture, so unfortunately for a one night only deal, she's gone away with an injury. She probably won't be used again, so she's going to have bad memories of the company. A bit of heat on Sadie Gibbs there, but the two of them stand tall after the match, bouncing back from recent defeats. We then get a promo from the Fringe, led by Darby Allin. He talks about his singles match with Matt Cross next week on Tuesday Night Dynamite. Allin says that Cross has been getting all the credit and all the Allin says that Cross has been getting all the credit and all the plaudits, but he is the fastest rising star in pro wrestling today. Soon he will be the mainstream at the top of AEW. We then get footage promoting this week's main event with footage from last week's Ray Phoenix losing to Marty Scurll in a competitive long main event match. We'll get a fired up interview with Cody before the main event, promoting next week when he will face Matt Jackson. He says that when he wins and becomes the number one contender, he expects the respect of his fellow Elite members. Cody says that he's had Kenny, Marty, Hangman and the Young Bucks' backs for years, and to see them going behind his back makes him sick. However, he's going to put that to one side. He will shake Matt Jackson's hand and he will beat him next week. Then, at Madison Square Garden in 3 weeks' time, he will shake Kenny Omega's hand, beat him, and take the AEW Men's World Championship with him. A very poor for Cody trying to improvise dialogue, but a 62 is fine. It continues the storyline, and I don't think it will take him too much heat off it as we go into the main event. A 66 C+ match, very good. Pentagon with a 66. Hangman Page still struggling, a 49 there. Pentagon picking up the victory over Hangman in 14 minutes 3 seconds with a top rope Styles clash. A decent match. I would have liked to see more than that. A 66 C+ is very good for our rating. We should have no problem meeting our requirements. After the match, in a reverse of last week, Pentagon and Phoenix stand tall, celebrating in the ring. The AEW World Tag Team Champions proving Hangman Page and Marty Scurll wrong to end the show. So there it is, episode number 11 of Tuesday Night Dynamite in the bag, a 68 C+ rating, increasing our popularity in 30 regions. That's all we really need as we continue to build to the huge Madison Square Garden show. Next week, Cody will face his elite teammate Matt Jackson, while Tessa Blanchard will look to consolidate her number one contendership against Tenille Dashwood. I've got high hopes for that show, and we'll see how it goes next week.